Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlan
and Tory,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Take the Leap. We're so excited for our guest today. Anna Goodwin is the owner and maker of Ceres Babies, a small business specializing in handmade organic baby clothes. A Latina entrepreneur whose childhood dream of becoming a successful business owner has become a reality. Refusing to take no for an answer, she aims to inspire other women to pursue their dreams fearlessly. As a mother to an almost 2-year-old, Anna Maria's entrepreneurial journey was sparked by her own experiences. Feeling out of place upon returning from maternity leave and burnt out in a male-dominated industry, she decided to carve her path in the business world. Today, she shares her insights and experiences to empower others on their entrepreneurial journeys. Welcome to Take the Leap. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for being
and
on
I
with
was
us.
just telling, I was just telling everyone before we started recording that you and I had connected on Instagram and Threads a while ago, and we've just been kind of following each other's journey. So it's just so nice to finally speak to you this way instead of through messages and comments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm just really excited for you to share your story. And I just recently became a customer of yours as well and have a really cute photo of my son in your outfit. So yeah, we usually just start off by, asking our guests, what is their Take the Leap story? So what is your Take the Leap story? How did everything happen?
So, you kind of went over a little bit on my introduction. However, I started probably, I would say, during COVID, mostly like everybody else who took their leap into being a business owner. I am a woman who struggles with infertility, and so during COVID, I ended up having an ectopic pregnancy. And that ectopic pregnancy ended up rupturing, and I had an emergency surgery where it was very complicated, and I didn't think, we were going to make it out of there. And while I was recovering from that, my husband came up to me one day and said, "Hey, I have something to show you." And I was like, okay, what is it? And he shows me this website, starts telling me a little bit about what he has done. And he had essentially started a business that I had wanted for a while, which was a baby clothing business, and at first, a lot of people used to be like, well, you don't even have any children. Why would you have a baby business and all of that? And to me, that was a way of coping. I couldn't have children at the time. I was just going through something so traumatic. It was technically my third pregnancy. And, it was helping me heal, per se, I would say. So we started doing that business. However, it was very successful at the time, but I was ordering things from China. I was doing things through wholesale, and it was just not what I wanted. So even though it was very successful and I love seeing all the babies wear our clothes and all of that stuff, it was just not fulfilling me. It was just not what I wanted. So I stopped doing that at the time we lived in Massachusetts, and we decided that we wanted sunshine, and we moved to Florida. Um, and we moved here in July. September comes around, and we become pregnant. And we didn't think that we were going to get pregnant, and so that's my son now. But through all that time, we had been doing so much like research and just getting to know, how to better ourselves and maybe what could be interfering with my fertility at the time, and how to have a successful pregnancy at this time. We had gotten so many tests done and all that stuff. Everything came back normal, and it just wasn't anything that was wrong at the time. Come to find out later that there was like some medical issues that just nobody caught and all of that stuff. But we started changing things around our house, just eating a little bit better, and just getting to know everything that we needed to know so that we could feel ourselves were doing something good, so that we could keep our pregnancy. You know what I mean? And just kind of go from there. Fast forward to I had my baby, and it's all I ever wanted. And it sounds cliche, but I come from a small family, but my husband comes from a big family, and I just always dreamed of being a mom and just having a big family and all of that. And I went back for maternity leave, and I worked at a restaurant. I was a restaurant manager for a while, and everybody loved me. And I was like, I'm a very people person. Like, I'm very outgoing. I love people, and I care for people a lot and things like that. And I just didn't feel like that was being reciprocated towards me. You know what I mean? Like, it was a very male driven industry. I do remember they try to do the best that they could to set up like a nursing room for me, like a breastfeeding room for me and all that stuff, but it just wasn't meant for me. I couldn't really step off the floor to go pump, and I feel like a lot of the females, or a lot of the moms nowadays, don't really have that either. And so I was working 60 plus hours a week while still trying to be a mom, and it was a lot for me. So I lasted about 3 months, and I just remember one week I worked 8 days in a row, and I had a little altercation with my boss at the time, and that just made me feel like, okay, my job is not appreciated here. My job at home is more important than this job. And don't get me wrong, like at the beginning of my career, because I moved my way up from like within this company, that's all I ever wanted to do. But throughout life and throughout my experiences, you change, and what you want changes, and I just didn't want that life anymore. I didn't want to be a corporate girly and move my way up, because all the times I just felt like it just wasn't for me. Like I try to do so much with team members and within the restaurant itself, but I always felt like my opinion just wasn't heard. And I came from a background that just, I didn't grow up with anything. I grew up in South America, so whatever I knew was from experiences. So after working, 8 days straight, I had an altercation with my boss, and I was like, I quit. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. So with my last bonus, I told my husband, let's get some stuff going. I'm ready to get the business back up and running, but I don't want that same business that we had, the same model. I want it to be a little bit more to what we are now. We have a baby, we want to take care of him, we want the best for him, and so we did a lot of research and the things that were better for him, that were not better for him, and at the end of the day, there was like a lot of small businesses that also sold baby clothes, but there's always room for everybody. And so I said, you know what, let's just go for it. So I wanted to stay as local as I could because, for my first business, we had a lot of issues with shipping, and shipping was just so expensive all the time. And then if you don't really like order within a certain time, then you end up not getting your things in order and all of that stuff. So we try to go as local as we could. We found some people here in the Orlando area that would make our items. However, the prices were just so high, so high. But we found like the fabric that we wanted, which was the organic. So with that last bonus, the little bit that I had left, even after like paying all these people to come up with the clothes and all of that stuff, we decided to buy a couple of sewing machines. And my husband and I learned how to use those machines while raising the baby and all that stuff while he was still working and all that. And I was terrified of doing something that you just don't know how to do. Let me tell you that, like a sewing machine is just so intimidating. And now that I meet other people, other moms, or other even men as well, that decide that they want to start sewing, they're like, oh my gosh, like it's so intimidating. So we started doing that for a little bit. We both learned, but I was the one that I really wanted to do it. And we decided we wanted to stay as local as we could. And even if that meant just like throughout the United States. And we also knew we wanted to do organic because, I come from a family that has unfortunately passed away and deal with a lot of cancer in our lives. Not myself for now, but I do know that like my parents and my grandparents, all of that, do have cancer and have had cancer in the past and all of that. And so organic was the only way to go for us because we want to make sure that all of our babies I want to make sure that when they buy our clothes, they feel safe. Like whatever happens in your door, like closed doors, that's your deal. But I want to make sure that like the clothes that I'm selling you is safe for me able to have your child wear it per se. So organic was the only way that we wanted to go without all the chemicals and metals that they all have, and actually we're currently working on getting our items third party tested as well, even though all of our distributors, like our fabric distributors, they test everything, but just another precaution that we want to take, you know what I mean, to keep the kids safe as much as we can. But yeah, that was pretty much it. I just said I'm over not being heard. I'm over my opinions not mattering. So I am just going to do what I want. And in my little four walls, what I say goes, you know what I mean? Without having to go up to some male and ask them, hey, is this okay? Or just, if I made a decision, I would be put down with like, conversations and all of that, when that just doesn't happen in my home, you know what I mean? And in my business.
That's wonderful. What an incredible journey that you just shared with us. There's so many things that you said that I like want to touch on and go back to.
Yeah. I like literally had to write them down because, and I remember listening to one of you guys' podcasts. Like, I can't remember his name, but I think it's like one of the only males you guys have had. And I think he says something about we as entrepreneurs, like, just kind of go with the flow, and we also change directions onto what we want with their businesses, and so like one of the things is like, okay, well, my first business didn't fall, like it just didn't fail, you know what I mean? I just learned something different, and I wanted something different, and I learned a lot of things from it, don't get me wrong, but it's just not what I wanted. So now this is more of a passion. This is more of a want, whether it succeeds or not. It's something that I know that I did on my own. And at the end, that'll be great. You know what I mean?
Well, it's so important to have a business that you're proud of, feels authentic to you, and that is the right fit. So I do think, a lot of folks are afraid to pivot and make changes, but it's important, right? That if things don't feel right, that you have to go do that. And I totally relate to, you had said earlier on in this segment that you moved to Florida for sunshine. That is why I'm here in Vegas. Oregon is much too rainy and cloudy and dark during the winter time. And so, yeah, and that's so great that you had the capability to do that and give yourselves, the space and the time to really recover. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I do think that a lot of women don't share about troubles with infertility and things like that, and what a toll it takes. And then you also said that piece about, not having space to, like, go pump and do things like that. I feel like so many times women are such an afterthought in the creation of like offices and spaces. It's just like, yeah, you should be happy with this random broom closet that we set up with a chair, and it's like not,
Well, let me tell you,
acceptable.
my
Yeah.
room was a liquor room because by law
Oh
I
my
cannot be in
gosh.
the bathroom, cannot have windows. Yeah, it was the only space available. You know what I mean? And granted, like, I'm thankful because again, a lot of places don't have that. And so now that I look back to it, I had to make my own sign, like, and I thought it was so embarrassing. Like, I had to make my sign that said, like, please don't interrupt or something like that. And I would just go in there. I had my little mini fridge and all that stuff, but it wasn't enough. And I remember even some other female managers would come up and knock on my door and like interrupt me because they needed something. And I'm like, I physically went out of my way to make sure that nobody needed to be in this room while I was here for 20 minutes. You know what I
Oh my
mean?
God, just for 20 minutes too? That's insane. You can
Yeah, just for
hold
20 minutes.
on for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's just me, and it just shows that, like, we, unfortunately, myself, I didn't really know, or I was afraid to voice my concerns, and I didn't raise them up until the end when I said, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I physically, mentally cannot do it anymore.
Mhm.
Instead, I should have done it before, but maybe it'll help another female, another mom, realize that you can say something and you can be like, I need more than 20 minutes per se. But again, like, I loved my job so much at the time, and I just wanted it to be successful, and I knew that the team needed me at that time. So I was there, without thinking for myself that my son needed me as well.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, and as a mother as well, my son will be 2 this fall. I can so relate to that. I feel like there was the time before he came along. I had different priorities. I had, different ambitions. And then he came along. And I think I just thought that my life would just, he would just adapt to my life, which is not at all how that ends up working. And
Right.
so, just so many things change that you can't prepare yourself for ahead of time because you just don't know what you don't know. And yeah, that I just wish that more companies, there was just more of a culture around supporting women in the workplace, supporting mothers in the workplace. And I think how we'll get there is by having these conversations, having mothers share their experiences and be part of the decision making group
Right.
so that
Right.
when employees come on board who become mothers who need things like that, it's a non-issue. Nobody has to feel uncomfortable about it. It's just automatically ingrained. But I do definitely think we still have a long ways to go. So I just really appreciate you sharing some of those parts of your
Yeah.
story because hopefully it will help someone, because until you go through it, it's just really, really difficult to figure out what it is that you need. So thank you for sharing that. That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
All right. I have our next question, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I'll say it again, in case there are more parts to the story. But what piece of advice would you give yourself when you started your business, knowing what you do now?
What piece of advice? Honestly, I would. There's quite a few things that I think about all the time that I try to, remember at all times. Um, One would be there is enough for everybody. It doesn't matter how many women clothing store, how many, like, I don't know, consulting jobs there is, like, whatever the case may be, there is enough for everybody. And there doesn't have to be a competition amongst all of us, like, within the same industry. We can still be able to be friends and connect with each other and learn from each other. That's how a lot of the times is, like, I've gotten a couple of wholesale orders from from all the small businesses because I make connections. That's how Tori and I met. You make connections, things like that. Another thing I would probably say is just go for it. Whether you think you are prepared or not, like you're never going to feel 100% prepared. Like I would also say keep learning. That is one of the things that I always do. Like I might not be sewing today, but I am Googling. I am taking classes. I am networking. I am doing whatever the case may be to try to learn how to make my business successful or how I can change it or you know what I mean, like alter things around for that. And so I think a lot of the times, like people who end up just starting, they're like, oh well, I don't know if I should do it. Am I gonna ever be ready? I don't know this. I don't know that. I don't know half of the things that I'm doing, but we're doing it and we're learning every single day. And am I gonna make mistakes? Absolutely. Do I get burned out? Absolutely. I take a day. I take breaks. There's times that I don't post because I'm just so burned out from social media that I just don't care. So I take my mental health day, and what do? I just hang out with my son. We go to the beach, and that's what we do. You know what I mean? And so it is also okay for you to relax, and just not really care about everything else that goes around, but always keep learning as much as you can.
I love that. That's so true. I think we've said it before, but I think someone recently said on one of our episodes that entrepreneurship is like a constant growing session. Like you're constantly learning about yourself and about what it is that you do, and like it's the best self-development course that you can take is becoming
Absolutely.
an entrepreneur. And I totally agree with
Yeah.
that. I mean, what Ashlan and I do, things change so quickly in our industry, and advice and rules that are followed change so quickly that we're constantly learning new things. And I feel like that's kind of just how it is. That's how you are able to connect with your audience and stay relevant, is by
Yeah.
constantly learning. So I love that.
Because at
That's
the end of the day, I just feel like we all start somewhere. And if we don't just take that leap into doing what we want to do, then we're never going to know what we're capable of doing. Like I dislike being on social media so much. However, I still try and I do it. You know what I mean? But if I didn't do it, how would I know? You know what I mean? You just don't know.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to like take that quote that you just said and just like put it on a poster.
Okay,
I
wait.
love that. Just
I,
like
I
put
was
that on
actually
my
listening to
computer.
I was listening to the last, I forget what her name is, the last podcast you guys were, because I listen, and she was saying something about she keeps like little notes in her calendar. And I'm like, okay, so I don't do the notes in my calendar because, just write everything scribbles. But I do have like little affirmations and little things stuck everywhere on my walls and like the mirrors and everything, because you got to do what you got to do
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
to do it.
That's so great. That's so great. Well, I am going to ask you a final question before we jump into the hot seat questions. So the last question that we usually always ask is, and you definitely have alluded to this, but I'll bring it back up in case you have anything you want to add. What is your why?
Okay.
Why do you do what you do?
I would probably say it's my why would be my son. I want to show him, how do I say this? I want to show him that his mom was able to do so many things. I want to show him that if you fight and you keep going for your dreams, you can make it. And that like success can be different for everybody else. Like I already consider myself like a very successful person, and it's not money wise because I don't really care for the materialistic things. Is how am I fulfilled, and I have a beautiful home, you know what I mean? Like we have like a beautiful, like just a small little family that just loves each other and things like that. So he is the reason why. And I want to make sure that he is set up in a way that like, okay, well, my parents are doing the best that they can to help me live a longer life, to just keep me as safe as I can, without going too extreme, because I feel like when you go too extreme with everything, one, is not sustainable, and two, it's just like, it's just I can't do it, you know what I mean? So doing the little things that we can so that he is able to, potentially live a longer life and be aware of everything that is out there in the world. I kind of grew up a little bit more sheltered. I wasn't able to like really do too many things, so I want to make sure that, I don't want him to be free at all times, you know what I mean? But that he does know what's out there in the world, and so I feel like us showing him, hey, your parents learned a new skill and now they're trying to do this for a living, and you see your mom working because he sees me working on the orders or just whatever, and he wants to be involved. To me, that's just so big. I want him to know that anything is possible in this world. The sky is the limit for him, and that's what I want.
I love that. And I relate to that so much. I definitely would love to show my son those same things. But I also, I just think it's so important that your kids see you as more than just a parent, right? Like there's not just a parent, but you know what I mean? Like you have more to you than raising
Right.
children, than raising a family. And when you can show the dimensions of that and show that everybody has different dreams and goals and works towards different things and learns differently, I just think it's so important for kids to see that and hopefully dream on their own and, be able to
Absolutely.
chase after what they want. So I love that. That's a great answer. All right. Are you ready for the hot seat questions?
I guess I'm a little nervous.
I know we always say that they're hot seat questions, but they're not really that hot. So my first question to you is, what is the best and or worst piece of advice you've received in your career? Unsolicited, solicited, whatever.
One of the things that somebody told me when I started like my management career was stay humble. And something that I always say, which you might edit or not, is at the end of the day, everybody poops. You know what I mean? Like that is something that
So
my
true.
husband and I live by. That is something that my husband and I live by. Everybody's the same. You know what I mean? Don't let power get to your head, or don't think that because you're doing this that everybody's gonna want to be in it, or that you need to change who you are, because at the end of the day, there's so many fake people out in this world, especially now with social media. You need to stay true to who you are, and whether it's like dress the nicest. You just, I don't know, like whatever the case may be, like that's who you are. Stay like that. Obviously, keep learning and getting better and all that stuff, but don't change that person. What else? Another, like a bad one, I would say somebody has told me is you should probably quit if things are not turning out. Just for the lack of better words, and I just feel that is just so wrong, because everybody in their life, in their business, has rocky times. We've seen it throughout. Like I've seen it, everybody has seen it, and only the people that will keep going, that keep trying to get better, are the people that are gonna make it. So don't let the slow months, the slow days, or whatever discourage you, or your social media content not being shown discourage you from, keep going and keep posting. It's something that I always tell myself, because at the end, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. I just know it.
Yeah, building that resilience is so important, because a lot of folks, like, you have to be able to do hard things. I mean, starting your business is already a hard thing. Like, we've done really fucking hard things,
Right.
And like, I think anybody who thinks that everything's going to be, roses and, rainbows and unicorns and all the perfect things. Like, I don't know if you've got it cut out, to do this. Like
Exactly. That's
you've got to
hard.
be
Life's
able,
hard.
yeah. Entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, but if you're willing to put in the effort, put in the work, do the things.
And I like to look up to one of my cousins. Like I said, I grew up in South America, and she grew up more in like the coast and stuff. So they had a lot of rain, downpours, floods, and all of that stuff. And I look up to her so much because she's lost so many businesses, and she always keeps on going. Like she has one, okay, well, I'm gonna get the other one going. And to me, that's just like, okay, she's not giving up. So why am I going to give up? Like, I'm not dealing with like rain and floods and all that stuff. I'm in my home. I'm just dealing with social media. You know what I mean? Like, what else could go wrong? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love that.
Definitely.
That's great.
Awesome. Well, I have the next question. You had introduced that, your husband, after y'all had lost a pregnancy, started the business for you. As somebody who has gone back and forth about whether or not I would work with mine, what has it been like, and what advice do you have for? I know Tory and her husband have a business together. What is that like, and what advice do you have for women who are like, hell yes or hell no on that train?
A lot of the times I feel, or what has worked for us, is that we are really close. We're like best friends. And both of us have agreed that it's okay for us to tell each other if we don't like something, if we don't agree with something, so I don't get, all emotional and butthurt when he tells me he doesn't like something, or when he doesn't want to help me with whatever the case may be. So I respect that he doesn't want to work on something, that maybe he wants to do it another day. And it's just listening to each other. And if you need time away from each other because, things are rough or whatever the case may be, just go outside, go get a coffee or something, and then think about what you actually want and how that message that you were trying to relay came across. And that's something that we do. You need to have really good communication with your spouse or your business partner or your friend or whatever, in order for you to be able to have a successful friendship, relationship within like business, marriage, and all of that stuff, and I think we do really well at that. Now, don't get me wrong, he pisses me off every single day. He's the most annoying person I know in this whole world. But we do really well.
Yeah.
That's
It's
so
because,
he's the most annoying person in the whole world. No, he would not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They know, it's because they know the buttons. They know the buttons.
Yes. They do.
They've
This
learned.
is like super shit, and I'm always like, you're so dumb. Like, stop saying that stuff.
I think that's so true. I mean, just having that kind of relationship, that partnership communication is important. And then being able to laugh at each other, being able to tell each other when you don't agree. Like, if you don't already have that in your relationship, not only is that not going to work in entrepreneurship, but it's probably just not going to work in general. Like, you have to be able to work really well with that person. And there's something about having kids too that I feel like just made, at least for my husband and I just kind of made that stronger, because we just had, we kind of had to, right? We had to communicate really quickly. We had to start changing things really quickly, and we adapt. So I love that. Sounds like you have just a great relationship with your husband.
I do. I actually do. We work really hard on it, but we do really well.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, I'm going to pivot a little bit on my next question. Not really, actually. This is kind of related. So your journey to entrepreneurship, it sounds like, was very much fueled by your journey to parenthood as well. So my question for you is, knowing that you were an entrepreneur before you became a parent, and then also after, do you think parenthood helped you become a better entrepreneur and business owner? Were there any skills that kind of transferred over? What was that experience like for you?
I would say, if anything, maybe made it just a little bit harder just because now you have another little body, another little person to take care of. So now you're not just like dealing with the business. Now you're taking care of another person. And so now it's having learning how to divide your time and figure out, like, prioritize your things, like what is most important right now. You know what I mean? And so I say this and I talk a lot about this on my social media is I'm still trying to find the balance on how to be the best mom that I can for him, even though I know I'm an amazing mom, but trying to be the best mom I can for my son while still trying to grow my business. You know what I mean? And so, I try to not do TV too much, or TV too much. But some days, like, I just really need it, and so I'm like, here, unfortunately, we'll just do TV for a little bit, and then we end up going outside and all that stuff. And then the next day it's just not so much. So I end up staying up later because I need to get things done. And then it's a cycle of am I being a good parent, while growing my business. So if anything, I would think it made it actually a little bit harder just because you're just trying to find a good, what's the word that I'm looking for? You're just trying to find a good balance, I would say. But it's only good things, you know what I mean? Like, it's all good. Like, there's no complaining here. Like, I love my life and I wouldn't change it for anything. But TV sometimes is necessary.
I agree with that as well. I think,
Absolutely.
if you ever discover the secret of how to have a super balanced way of running your household, your life, and your business, feel free to send me a message. But I don't think that anybody has fully figured that out. And I think it's and it's going to be different for everybody. And I think it's just a learning process. And I think that's just one of the fun parts of this journey of life, right? So I love that answer. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and another thing is I feel like it's like asking for help as well. We do live in Florida, so we don't have family close to us. So a lot of the times I'll ask my husband, like, hey, like, I gotta sew or I gotta do a couple things, do you think you can just take him, I don't know, on a walk or just to go play outside and things like that. So I am one of those people that I feel like I can do it all, without asking for help, and so learning how to ask for help here and there, is good, and it doesn't make me a less of a mom or less of a person or anything like that. So I would say ask for help when you need it. I know at the beginning I was very like reluctant to like ask for help, especially because we don't really have family around here. But I do have a wonderful mother-in-law who comes around, I would say like every 6 weeks or so, and she does offer to do things and all of that. But we miss her so much that we just hang out with her instead of like taking advantage of her time here. So we just go out with her.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and that actually, like, I relate to that because we're kind of in the same boat where we don't have a lot of support in the area as well. And we're constantly having to we're still trying to figure out like, how do we juggle our workloads and our kid? And, we do pay for some support while we work, but then that we kind of tap out after that. So like, who do we ask? Like, how do we get help? And so often it's like switching back and forth between the two of us.
Right.
I know that I'm not the only mother in this boat. And the only parent in this boat. So if you have any other tips to share on how you help kind of create that village for yourself,
Right.
I think maybe our audience would love to hear that. But I think it's just kind of a struggle.
It is a struggle, yeah.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Or maybe one of the listeners will give us some tips. Maybe they'll comment on some of the podcasts and they'll let us know. So, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just an experience that we all just get through at some point, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Ashlan, I think it is your turn.
Yeah, I have the next question. So your designs are really, really creative, and it's so great to hear that you sew them all, because oh my God, that is such a
Amazing.
I guess I'll share an example. I watch the RuPaul's Drag Race, like the drag queen show, and I am surprised every single time one of them gets on there and they're like, "We don't know how to sew. We only know how to do the hot glue gun thing." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, if you know you're gonna get on, learn to sew." But I would love to hear from you. Sorry, that was just a little sidebar. I love to hear from you what inspires your designs for the designs that you make for your business.
I'll be honest with you. I am still trying to figure out what kind of design route I want to go towards. I am a very bright person. I love bright colors, like hence the shirt that I'm wearing. You know what I mean? Like I love the bright colors. I'm not a person that really likes like a bunch of designs all clumped up together, but I also don't really enjoy like the neutrals, which is apparently the trend now. Everybody loves the neutrals. So, luckily for me, the fabric shop that I get the fabric from, they have a lot of designs already uploaded. So I am able to shop around and see what I like. I want to be as unique as I would say, like try to stay as delicate as we can, and as neutral as we can without being too much. Because what I do want, or what I do like, is being able to be gender neutral as much as we can. I don't think that boys should only have, wear the cars or the cows. I think, if we make it really nicely, the girls can also wear it, and it's just a little bit hard because I don't have girls, and I do come from a family of all girls, but I only have nephews. So that's all we know, just boys, trucks, dinosaurs, and all that stuff, but I try to stay with that. And I have a designer that I absolutely love. She kind of goes a little bit away from what I try to do, which is made in America. And, so like all of our fabric, it's milled and it's, made in America, made by us, small businesses and all of that. And that's what I try to promote. Supporting small businesses as local as we can. However, I have fallen in love with her. Her name is Flor from Houghton Design, and she is from New Zealand. And one of my lifetime goals is to work with her in like a private, thing. So I love her design so much. However, when I don't find something that I really like from her, I end up just outsourcing from other small businesses or wherever I can. I started getting into drawing my own things as well, but I can't do it all. You know what I mean? Like I gotta pay, I gotta outsource here and there sometimes. And so I want to be as unique but as bright as I can. Even though my sales are probably not the best because everybody wants to do neutrals, but I'm sticking with my brightness. You know what I mean?
Well, it's so much part of
Absolutely.
your brand, like having that
Exactly. You know
unique
what I mean?
brightness. Yeah. And I, as a mom, and as a mom of a boy, shopping for him can be a struggle sometimes because there are some cute trucks and dinosaurs and things like that, but why is that the only thing that we think of with boys clothing? And also,
Exactly.
why can't that be for girls too? And so it's just I love having I that's why I love your clothes. I just love having kind of those unique different things. I too am not a huge fan of the neutrals. Unless it's like, okay, well I don't want him wearing anything cute right now because I know he's going to ruin it in the mud or, eating. But like other than that, like I'd rather him wear fun clothes. I'd rather um, you know, have those pictures of him in those adorable outfits than in
Exactly.
just like the neutral onesies. So I love that. And I also love what you said.
Exactly.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, go.
I was just gonna say, I also really love what you said about making your clothes as gender neutral as possible. I feel like also like clothing for kids who they're gonna grow out of pretty quickly can be really expensive. Like, why do we have to buy girl specific clothing or boy specific clothing when they can wear something that suits both of them And then you can keep that if, you want to have more kids, or you can donate that to a friend or somebody else, and not really worry about that. So I love that you also include
Absolutely.
that in your business plan.
Yeah. So like when we were when we were pregnant and all of that, you would go shopping and the boys section is just so sad. Just like trucks and dinosaurs, but not even like cute trucks or cute dinosaurs. They're just so boring. You know what I mean? They're just so, I don't know. And so people started gifting us that, and we're like, okay, I guess. And only like my mother-in-law and my husband's great grandma, she knew how like the style that we wanted that we liked, which was just like a little bit more, a little bright, but not too much. And so I also agree with you that baby clothes is so expensive. And yes, I know that my items are expensive, but our items, again, they're organic, they're mailed in the USA, all that stuff. But I always make sure that our sizes are just a little bit bigger because I want kids to wear their clothes as long as they can. Not only as gender neutral as possible, but why only wear it for just one time, two times, three times? My son still has his Christmas peaches that I made him, and he's almost 2 years old and he still wears them because they fit him. They fit him just perfectly fine. And so the fabric it's perfect. It stretches enough, so now I'm going more for like a little summery fabric. So it's a little bit different, but it's still going to be a little bit more oversized once again, because the economy is so expensive right now. Like, why spend so much money on baby clothes when I can just make it a little bit bigger for your kids? Win-win situation over here.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that like I feel like I've heard from folks who have kids, like sometimes people, buy certain sizes. What if you have a big baby and they can't even fit the things? Like I've had multiple friends who they're like, well, all those little stuff does, like I had a huge child. They just don't fit,
And don't get me wrong, there's like a lot of second-hand clothing stores that I've been to. I've donated tons of clothes from there. Like we got so many items that were donated to us. So like people that are struggling, then they don't really have the financial means to buy new clothes. Second clothes hands are always great as well. They sell them for pretty cheap, and like $20 you can get like bags of clothes. And so like right there now you are also helping with such a high consumerism that we're dealing with nowadays, because of all the influencers that are currently like promoting for us to buy more and more and more, instead of educating us and telling us that we should actually spend a little bit more money on our clothes, and that clothes will last us a little bit longer. You know what I mean? Because I can't tell you how many times like we have so much clothes that people have given us, and there's so much money, and they're already like, they have a hole or everything's falling apart, and the material is just so thin, you know what I mean? And so like, why not spend a little bit more money and get a better quality? And so one of the goals that I have is, I feel like there's a huge taboo when it comes to the word handmade clothes. When I first started searching things around, like one of the things was like, oh, handmade clothes is just like not good. They're not, well made and blah, 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 And I remember one of my family members actually telling me like, who's going to buy handmade clothes? And in my head, I was like, lots of people actually. Like I do, I don't, you know what I mean? Like I do. And so like one of the goals is for us to be able to provide really good quality. And, sometimes things fall apart and things like that, but we're here for that. And we want people to know they can come to us and like, let us know and kind of go from there. One of the things that I have learned a lot through my whole years of customer service is customer service. You know what I mean? So come talk to us. We're here for that, So I really hope that the vision or the image of handmade items kind of just gets better, I would say. Just to know that like they are really good quality items being made. Not items don't have to be made by a fast fashion brand or by children in a factory, you know what I mean? That or by families, women that don't really get paid to survive. You know what I mean? So
that's so interesting, because we value handmade in certain things. Like, you know, I've had people who be like, you know, our wedding dress is handmade, but why not baby clothes? Like, and all our clothes used to be handmade back in the day anyway. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't have this capability that we do now. So I love that you're kind of promoting that. Like, it can be high quality and it can
Thank
be
you.
good out there. Yeah, especially with baby clothes. Like, I remember growing up in Hawaii, you know, you had the baby clothes that just got handed down from my both my
Exactly.
parents have really big families, and so they're like, "Are you having a boy or a girl?" We have lots less boys in our family, so they're like, "Oh, you have a girl. Here is everything," and you can see like photos of us cousins as kids, like all wearing the same, like, you know,
Same.
the outfits in the different years. But there's something, I don't know,
Absolutely.
there's something so sweet about that, you know,
Oh
that it
yeah.
was used
Yeah.
so many
And
times.
I feel like clothes back then like lasted longer because they were just made differently. And so I feel like with the
Mhm.
homemade clothing for babies, like I feel like those are just so much more durable than like the fast fashion brands that are just pumping them out. And so you can't really reuse them. Like they get a hole in them, they rip easily, they get stained really easily. It's hard to
Yeah.
get things out of them, and so you end up just tossing them instead of saving them for someone else or donating them. And it's just so disappointing because you know you've already spent all of that money and you might as well
Right.
you know save it and give back, but you can't. And so I feel like yeah, I feel like this trend of kind of going back to more organic and handmade stuff is really going to increase the quality of stuff like that. And that's what I love. I love your brand so much. I think it's just really
Thank you.
genius. And I think that also really
Thank you.
perfectly sets up this next question I have for you. So I really love your focus on high quality, ethically made, and sustainable products throughout your whole brand. And I just kind of want to have a conversation about that for a minute and ask you, why do you think it's important to make those values really prominent in your brand? And like, how would you recommend others to introduce sustainability into their own businesses?
So I feel like a lot of us are like kind of like brainwashed from thinking that like we need to shop at like the name brand stores for us to be able to, you know, be in fashion and all of that stuff. And one of the things I we learned through doing a lot of our research was not too many businesses are contributing are are doing like a positive impact on our climate change and our I would say like our world and our universe and all that stuff. So one of the things that we really wanted to do was to make sure that we were as eco-friendly as we could be, as sustainable as we could be, and that included, you know, like payable living wages for everybody as much as we could, non-toxic and all of that, and as well as making sure that we were helping our planet as much as we could. You know, one thing that we just recently started was we joined a foundation that helps us plant trees every time we get an order. You know what I mean? Another thing that I'm working on is making sure that our clothing items don't end up in the landfill. You know what I mean? So that's something that people don't see, that a lot of our clothing items are ending up in next to the ocean, for example, like in Chile, for example. I saw something that was like, this is where your clothing items are ending up at, and it's taken away from the habitat of the animals that are there, as well as destroying, you know, trees and all of that stuff, the planet. And I just feel like we wanted to make an impact when it came to that. Now, we're not 100% sustainable. You know, our packaging is sustainable, but I don't want to tell people, um, you know, I want to tell people this is us and this is what we're doing, you know, because there are other things that we could be doing. You know, I feel like with every single business, you should be as honest as you can. I just have a bag full of leftover fabric that I need to work on trying to see how I can make that. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to learn different skills so that I could for example, like maybe making some like kid toys, and I can stuff them with all the leftover fabrics, you know what I mean, and doing that, right? Yeah. So
Baby
I'm learning.
quilts too. Baby quilts
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
thing or burp rags, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah, little things like that, so
Mhm.
I think one of the things that people or other businesses should be doing, first of all, is stop gaslighting every consumer out there into believing that they are sustainable, because a lot of it is just like a marketing thing. Like our
Mhm.
packaging is, biodegradable. We are making everything handmade. Our clothing fabric is also sustainable, and they're making sure that everything is
Mhm.
sustainable, but we are, and we can do other things for that, so I think that's the first thing. But also, what else are we doing to help the climate change and the planet, to stop all of that stuff, so I would say plant trees. One of the things that I'm working on is coming up with maybe local events where we could get people to come in and maybe either help us go to the local beach and pick up trash from the beach. You know what I mean? That's something super cool that we could do. Something that we do when we go to the beach as a family. You know what I mean? But it could be into a bigger scale, and just speaking about what sustainability could be for them. A lot of the times it's just like a marketing thing, for example, like a lot of people think that bamboo is just sustainable and ethical and I'm sorry, and eco-friendly, but in reality, bamboo is only eco-friendly when it's at the plant, you know what I mean? And so just educating people as much as possible, I think is what we try to do. And don't get me wrong, it's something that we are also learning as we go. Again, we try to learn as a business as much as we can. But that is something that I want to be with my customers, with anybody who comes up on our page, is this is who we are, and these are things that we're doing. These are things that we could be doing better, and we're always open to suggestions on how we can make our business more sustainable. And I just don't like to talk out of our asses as much as we can. You know what I mean? So, so yeah. I hope I answered your question. I kind of rambled a
Yes.
little bit, but
No,
That's
that
great.
was perfect. I think that's so true. I think so much of it, what you said, is just marketing, but the actual work behind the scenes isn't always happening. And I think the more we can just be authentic, because I also think it's just unsustainable. I think you said this earlier, to be 100% eco-friendly, sustainable, and all of that. Like, we have to just come to the reality that, there's so much work to be done, and there's things that are beyond our control at the moment. So what are the things that we can control? What are the ways we
right.
can improve, and how can we educate ourselves and be better? I think that's a better conversation to have over only buy from us because we're sustainable, because it's just not real.
Right. And the thing is, like, I'm not, or we as a family are not the type of people that will shame you or will talk down to you for not doing something that we do. Like, for example, like eating organic or just buying organic clothing or things like that. It can be very expensive. So you get to pick and choose what are the things that are most important to you and how you want to do those things. And then, when it comes to our business, well, what can we do as a business that is going to, help our listeners or our viewers or our customers maybe understand a little bit of the disconnect that there could be? Because a lot of people are very unaware of everything. I didn't know anything about it. Luckily my mother-in-law is a little earthy crunchy, and so she knows a lot of the stuff. And so we learn a lot from her, and as well as my husband, like he knows a lot of stuff as well. So we all learn as a family per se. And so, instead of just lying about things, we just learn together.
Yeah.
I love that.
Radical honesty.
I love
Just-
that.
The last thing that I want is to be like, oh my gosh, like I'm at the top, and next thing you know, because I decided to lie. You know what I mean? And I was just BS, like that's not what I want. That am I being like true to myself? Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Like that's just not, is it going to take me longer? Potentially. It's going to take me longer to get to where I want to be? Potentially. But we're here for the long run. And so if it just takes us a little bit longer to get where we need to be, that's fine. That's fine.
That's such a good answer. I love that. Oh, I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. Well, that is kind of the end of our questions here. But before we wrap up, I'd love to, yeah, I know. I feel like we could talk for hours.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you back for sure. Well, before we
years when I'm just like, top of the world.
Before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to share with our audience? Anything specifically you want to promote? Also make sure to shout out where folks can find you and where they can shop with you.
One of the only things that I would say, if you are a mom who feels like, I would say like a stay-at-home mom or a working mom who just feels like after motherhood, you potentially lost yourself or you're just having a really hard time navigating through the world now, I would just say take a step back and really reconsider and really rethink what it is that you want and what is important to you. Because you can always get a job again. You can't gain the time that you got taken away from your kids, you know what I mean? And I would say, like, if you really wanted to start a business, if you really wanted to start a project, just go for it. Just know that there's so many people who also did it. There's so many people who are also doing it and are struggling the same way you are. So why not just go for it? Like you're not going to know how strong you are until you go through it. You know what I mean? So I think about that like every single day. Like, wow, you just took that leap and now here you are. You know what I mean? Like you're so successful. That's what I think about. Like it might not be, again, to me, money doesn't really matter because to me, money is not important, but it's fulfilling me and that's what it's doing to me. I would say go for it. You're doing great. Whether you're a mom or not, whether you're a female or a male, it doesn't matter. I do think that women do need to stick together. I think that the workforce, a lot of the times, it was just not meant for moms. Or they want it to be meant for moms, but it's not really set up for us. So what can we do as women to change that? I think about that all the time. Like, what can I do, to make sure that another mom or another female doesn't go through the same experience as I did?
Oh my gosh.
So, but anyways, you can find us on Ceres_baby on Instagram. And I post a lot about, I don't know, our small business, our lives a little bit. I would say my content's all over the place, but I'm a person who's all over the place, and that's who I am. And so sometimes I'm funny, sometimes I'm not, and so that's who shows up on my Instagram page. And in a world where so much fake social media is out there, be true to yourself.
I love that so much. I want to just take that whole last clip and just like replay it every single day as a reminder.
Oh, let's do it. Have you heard that song? Like, are you guys on TikTok?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's this new song of this girl that's like, I'm looking for a guy in finance. Yeah. Have you heard it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We should make it. We should make a song like that too.
Let's do it. I love that so much.
It kind of just goes in repeat,
I know.
I have those songs in
yeah, I know. All the songs. I'll just be randomly. I'm like, why am I singing this? Oh, it's on TikTok. That's right.
But we can make our own. Like we can make our own. We really should.
I love that idea. I think we'll definitely be doing that in the near future. Well, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure chatting with you. And I feel like we could talk for another few hours, honestly.
That's the goal,
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and your journey. And yes, thank you. And listeners, I hope you got a lot from this episode. Feel free to write in any questions or DM us on Instagram. And we will see you all in another week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.